Electrical noise in audio setups is quite common, like ground loop noise, hiss, buzz, hum, computer noise, and so on, and it will typically sound like this. Or this. Or this. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get rid of these annoying noises once and for all. If you're experiencing buzz, hiss, GPU noise, or other electrical noise in your audio setup, it's usually caused by the following: ground loops, cable interference, dirty mains or electric power, internal electric noise, or external interference from wireless devices. There were a few things I didn't include in my previous video about this, so I figured it was about time I made a new, more in-depth video on the subject. So hopefully this video will have you covered. Studio monitors, electric guitars, amplifiers, audio interfaces, etc. are all vulnerable to ground loop noise. So what exactly is ground loop noise? Well, it usually occurs when you have multiple devices linked together through signal cables and plugged into different power outlets, which induces multiple grounding points. Fortunately, there are ways to deal with this. Devices like these will usually take care of the problem once and for all, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. But there are also some things that you can try first that won't cost you anything at all. So let's cut to the chase. Number 1, and this one is free. You always want to keep signal cables away from power cables and other sources of interference. Dimmers and transformers in general are common sources of electrical noise. If it sounds like this, then the first thing you should try is to make sure both monitors are connected to the same outlet. All devices that are physically connected should ideally share the same outlet. However, if they already are and you still have issues, then try plugging one of your monitors into a different power outlet. Oftentimes, just switching outlets will cure the problem. Number 2, signal cables, filters, and isolators. The most common reason for studio monitor noise problems are the signal cables themselves. There are two kinds of cables, unbalanced and balanced. Unbalanced cables are cheaper, but they are also more likely to pick up noise. If you don't already have balanced cables, then that's the first thing you should try. Good quality balanced cables will often eliminate the noise. I'll put links to some good balanced XLR cables in the links down below. Before you go ahead and buy anything, make sure that your audio interface supports balanced output. Besides balanced cables, there are also various filters and isolators you can buy, like these. They're usually quite inexpensive and often do a good job filtering out hiss and buzz. The problem is that many inexpensive noise filters are poorly designed. They can restrict current and reduce headroom, and instead of only removing noise, they can also alter the audio signal itself. The low end is especially vulnerable, which can be a serious issue when you're trying to make accurate mix decisions. If you experience a constant 50 or 60 Hz hum like this, it might be a ground loop issue. But if it's there consistently with only power connected, then it might be what's often referred to as transformer hum or toroidal hum. It will come from the amplifier itself. This can occur if there's any DC present on the mains. The bigger the amplifier, the more prone it tends to be for this. You can usually hear it when you put your head close to the chassis. If you're experiencing transformer hum, then this device will effectively eliminate it. The IFI DC blocker prevents the direct current from entering the amplifier, which eliminates the hum. Now, the most common problem is probably ground loop noise, which brings me to the next item on my list. Number 3, ground loop eliminators. Ground loops are quite common in audio setups. It's a major cause of noise, hum, and interference. It can sound like this, or this. If it sounds like this, then again, the first thing you should do is to check the outlets the studio monitors are plugged into. Ideally, everything in your audio setup should be connected to the same outlet. However, that's not always possible, and even when it is, you might still experience ground loop noise. The most common cause of studio monitor noise, though, is probably the computer itself. The noise will be carried through the USB port, and it will typically sound like this. You can kind of hear the computer working. Sometimes just moving the mouse cursor back and forth can make a sound, which is far from ideal for music producers. To troubleshoot this, you'll have to start unplugging cables and devices to see if that cures the problem. If unplugging devices and changing outlets doesn't work, then I recommend buying a device like this. This is the iFi iDefender Max. It's a cheap but effective way to break ground loops by separating the power from the computer to the audio device. A few years ago, I switched from a FireWire interface to a USB-powered audio interface and immediately started experiencing ground loop noise. After trying several solutions, I came across the iDefender Plus. After researching it, I decided to buy one, and it completely solved the problem. Just disconnect your audio interface, plug in the iDefender, and then plug the audio interface into it. Note, you'll have to plug in a USB charger here to supply it with power, or it won't work. You can get this with USB A to A, C to A, and so on. This is a cheap and simple way of eliminating computer noise from studio monitors. I'll put the link to the iDefender Max in the description below so that you can check it out. I can see from the Amazon reviews that it didn't work for some people. In those cases, the issue was likely located elsewhere in their setup. This will only work if you actually have a ground loop issue related to your computer. One sure way to get rid of ground loop noise is to use another iFi device like this. I've bought this myself. This is the GND Defender. It will intelligently break any DC ground loop, like hum, computer noise, etc. You might need more than one, though. For example, one for each studio monitor. This is a smart device, so your safety is preserved, unlike some of those ground lifts, which can be a death trap. I've seen musicians removing grounding pins or taping over them to break the ground, and I strongly advise against that. The grounding is there for a reason. If there's a fault in your electrical system and you've disabled the grounding pin, then it could lead to a fire. You won't run that risk with one of these. Here's a good example of what it can do. Here I have a pair of powered studio monitors connected to a FireWire audio interface, which is connected to my computer. There's an annoying computer noise consistently in the background. I can hear it when I'm moving the mouse cursor and whenever the hard drive is working. I'm not sure how well the microphone will pick this up, but I'll remove the signal cable and make contact with the chassis itself, then it should be much more audible. This used to drive me nuts. So let's power off the computer and plug in the GND Defender. Now let's try it again. And there you go. Silence. The ground loop has been eliminated, and it's perfectly safe to use. This will work well if you experience ground loop noise when plugging in an electric guitar, for example, or other gear connected to your computer. In some cases, if you have a lot of interconnected gear, like powered guitar amps, you might need more than one of these. If you have a USB-powered audio interface, then the iDefender Max will be a cheaper solution. While ground loops and unshielded signal cables are by far the most common causes of noise, there are several other issues that can cause problems as well. If you're hearing a static hissing noise that seems to pop or crackle, it's often the result of radio frequency interference affecting your studio monitors. The most common cause is having a Wi-Fi router placed too close to the speakers. In some cases, even a mobile phone positioned nearby can introduce noise. Since Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are usually active, it will often sound like this. I've experienced this myself, and simply moving the Wi-Fi router to another room completely resolved the issue. If you're experiencing hiss in your studio monitors, it may be caused by one or more of the following: unbalanced cables or very long cable runs, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or mobile phones placed close to audio equipment, dimmers or LED lighting, signal cables crossing or running alongside power cables, gain staging issues, such as monitor volume set too high and interface output set too low. In some cases, hiss or noise can be caused by dirty mains/electric power from dimmers, PWM-based heaters, or other electrically noisy appliances. If the issue is not related to a ground loop, devices such as the iFi iPower or iSilencer Max can often help cure the problem. This will only work if you actually have an issue related to your computer. That said, the most common cause of studio monitor hiss is self-noise. All active studio monitors produce some amount of inherent noise, even high-end models. It's usually only noticeable when you're very close, but some monitors can have significantly higher self-noise than others, particularly budget models with cheaper components. It will typically sound like this. So if you hear a very faint hiss when listening up close, or when the signal cables are disconnected, then it's most likely just normal self-noise, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I know some people will point out that these aren't cheap. I spent a long time researching and testing solutions for my own noise issues, and most of what I found either didn't work or compromised the audio signal, especially the low end. There may be cheaper options out there that I'm not aware of, but I know from experience that the iFi units actually work, which is why I feel confident recommending them. I'll put the links to all these devices in the description below so that you can check them out yourself. Again, there can be multiple reasons for ground loops. You'll have to identify the exact reason before you go ahead and buy anything. I should point out that in some cases, the noise might actually be caused by faulty equipment too. So again, you'll have to do some troubleshooting to figure out exactly what's causing it. For example, if you have a hiss in one studio monitor, but not the other, then try to switch the signal cables. If the noise moves to the other side, you know it's not the monitor. I'd like to know what kind of noise-related issues you're having. Let me know in the comments below. It would be interesting to see what's most common. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, then please subscribe and hit that like button. If you need professional feedback on your music, mastering, and so on, then check out the links below. Thanks for watching.